So of course, Call of Duty. So yeah, this is a long-running franchise that I'm very familiar with on this channel. I've covered most of the games, excluding, well, the first three. Although Call of Duty 2 and 3, I do hopefully plan to cover sometime. But of course, well, this year marks a new entry for Call of Duty, and also the series' 22nd anniversary. Call of Duty is a very long-running franchise, and there's, well, tons of games in the series. Some are, you know, some like Call of Duty 2 are hitting its 20th anniversary this year. It's really shocking to realize how far this series has come. And of course, that brings me to today's topic, Call of Duty Black Ops. As of now, there's 7 entries within the Black Ops series, with an 8th on the way. And of course, today I will be reviewing all of them, starting with 2008's Call of Duty World at War. So of course, World at War came out in 2008 and was the second game that Treyarch themselves developed. And, well, I guess what are my thoughts on this one? Well, I guess for this one, it's pretty interesting. And, yeah, if you mainly look at the screen for these videos, I actually want to do something new, and that is, of course, because I might take a bit of time to really talk about the game, and so it generally might be a bit more podcasty, like the Late Night with Moth Queen videos, and the top horror games I did. So, of course, Call of Duty World at War comes out in 2008 and is the second game developed by Treyarch, at least in the mainline series. I think they did port over one of the other games, or at least one of the spin-offs. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, so let's take a look at Call of Duty 1 at War. So this is the second game that Treyarch themselves really developed, and, well, it's still remembered as one of the most iconic Call of Duties. The series was in an interesting time at that point because, well, the earlier Call of Duties were focused on World War II, and then Modern Warfare changes that and puts it into a modern setting. But then World at War goes back to the World War II setting. And of course, you'd probably expect us to fail because at this point, it would have been the fourth Call of Duty to focus on World War II, at least in the main series. Then you have all these spin-offs. But the fact that World at War did pretty well is kind of, I guess, surprising for some people. The game focuses on, well, World War II. You, of course, have 2 campaigns. You have the American campaign, which focuses on soldiers, fighting for the Pacific Theater, towards their way to Japan. And, of course, you also get to see some other characters here and there. Your squad is pretty interesting. Compared to other stuff like Vanguard or World War II, the squad might be a little underwritten, but there are some characters in World at War that generally were really interesting, especially on the American side. Then, of course, you have the Russian campaign, where you are, you're in the Red Army and you're fighting your way towards the heartland of Germany. This is definitely quite different from earlier Call of Duties, because stuff like Call of Duty 2 and Call of Duty 3 did have multiple campaigns, and generally these ones did feel a little more interesting, but that's not to say that World at War was a bad game, because, it wasn't. I just feel like there's probably a bit more that they could have done with this one to make it a bit more fleshed out. Because compared to stuff like World War II, that one generally felt a bit better written. Although I will definitely say the campaign for World at War was pretty fun. I think overall it's a really fun Call of Duty, but it really did show that Treyarch themselves were still learning how to properly develop stories. That's not to say that World at War is a bad game though, because I mean it's not. It's a bit flawed, but it's still a pretty fun one, and it has arguably one of the best endings of any Call of Duty, because once you beat the campaign, you of course unlock the zombies mode, which, playing this for the first time, that was kind of cool figuring that out. Of course, these days we already know what's going to be in every Call of Duty, but back when it originally released, I think that was kind of an interesting thing. And of course, I guess next up we of course have its first sequel, Call of Duty Black Ops. So Black Ops was released in 2010 and is the first sequel to World at War. So this is actually where the Black Ops series gets really interesting. So Call of Duty Black Ops came out in 2010 and is often kind of seen as, well, one of the final games of the golden era. Either that or Black Ops 2. It really depends on who you ask. But Black Ops focuses on a new conflict that COD didn't really explore before. That, of course, is the Cold War. Which, for those who don't know, the Cold War is basically what followed after World War II. So basically, little history lesson, in the early 1900s, you have World War I. This starts when a Serbian nationalist assassinates the Archduke of Austria. This, of course, causes a huge issue between Austria and Serbia, and Austria is allied with Germany. Germany, wants to help Austria. Russia's protecting Serbia. Russia declares war on Germany. Germany declares war on Russia. The British, they're allied. Actually, no, the French are allied with Russia, and they're allied with Britain, who will declare war on Germany. So basically, this is causing this entire huge issue in Europe. And then 20 years later, after Germany basically kind of has its economy ruined with the Treaty of Versailles, and the Great Depression starts, you of course have this angry guy who invades Poland and then sparks the Second World War. And that's kind of what World at War is about. It's about the Second World War, which has all these factions fighting each other. I mean, they're in two distinct groups, the Axis powers and the Allies. But there's a lot of stuff that happens in this time period that I cannot properly explain in one video. Same with the Cold War. But following World War II, the Cold War starts, and that's kind of what Black Ops really focuses on. The game focuses on a conspiracy. There's these numbers that the main protagonist, Alex Mason, is struggling with, and he's being forced to recount his steps and figure out what these numbers mean. That's the entire plot of the game. And, well, basically to kind of give spoilers, which keep in mind will be in this video, the numbers are coming from a number station. Mason was brainwashed because he got captured after a failed assassination attempt on the then Cuban dictator Fidel Castro, who led a communist party, and there were attempts by the US to take him out because communism was seen as this huge threat. And so Alex and his buddies, they can't fail to take him down because they accidentally killed a bodyguard. Alex is captured and sent to a gulag. This is where he is brainwashed and then brainwashed again by a man known as Victor Reznov, who appears from Call of Duty World at War. Reznov brainwashes him to kill three men, Steiner, Dragovich, and another dude. I think Kravchenko. And so that's Alex's mission, is to kill these men, and pretty much just it's pretty much just that. But the rest of the game is just him retracing his footsteps from what happened, unlocking various memories in an attempt to find out what these numbers actually mean. And I think overall, it's a really good storyline. I think the game did a wonderful job with how it presents the story. The gameplay itself, well, the gameplay for COD is usually similar to the last game, but the gameplay is still pretty fun. Black Ops has a really interesting storyline. It has some really interesting characters. A bit of a weak antagonist compared to what Modern Warfare 2 did a year prior. But at the same time, Black Ops is also a pretty fun game, and it's gone down as one of the most appreciated in the series. And of course, it also did tweak the zombies formula a bit, and of course, multiplayer, which both have been seen as highlights for this game. Then, of course, Call of Duty Black Ops was followed by a sequel in 2012, but we will not cover that one yet because this is going to be a chronological review of Call of Duty Black Ops. So, of course, next up is, of course, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. So, Cold War came out in 2020 on the, at then, new consoles, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, along with the PS4 and Xbox One. This is probably a somewhat controversial entry in the series, and as of course with the fact about how it even released. So of course, this game came out in 2020, and everyone knows that back in 2020 we were dealing with the pandemic, and I guess Sledgehammer and Treyarch had some infighting with each other, and Treyarch was forced to take over, and this led to Cold War being released. Now, Cold War is a fun Call of Duty. Don't get me wrong, I actually really enjoyed this one. It's probably one of my favorites in the Black Ops series. Everything about this one is pretty good. But there's some issues with this one, and I will probably get into more of this later as I get on with this video. So, of course, the story with Cold War is that, it takes place after Call of Duty Black Ops. The number station got destroyed, but there's a new threat. Stolen American missiles, which is kind of the same plot line from, kind of Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 and then Modern Warfare 3. Yeah, I love Call of Duty Cold War, but they kind of could do something else that isn't American missiles or someone's missiles being stolen. So of course, Call of Duty Cold War focuses on a secret unit, secret group, and they're pretty much trying to track down a man known as Perseus and retrieve these missiles. Now, the interesting thing about this game is the fact that, the character you play as, Bell, they've gotten brainwashed. Early in the game, you of course see this guy try killing a few people, and one of the guys he was trying to kill, that's the player character. The player is of course rescued by Adler and brainwashed into believing that something's happened, and they're basically kind of the puppet in the game. It's a really interesting idea, and I think it was well executed. The game was pretty fun. There's a lot I really enjoyed about this one. I think the only issues with this is that the game feels a bit short, which is kind of unfortunate. Call of Duty has always been a short title, but with this one it definitely did feel like it was a bit shorter compared to the others. And overall, I think this one was pretty interesting. I really did like the story. I like the characters. I like the two endings. And like other Call of Duties, this one, well, like other entries in the series, this one kind of did have another ending. You of course had two endings. You can either help Perseus or you can, take him out. I won't spoil what happens, but both endings are pretty interesting, and I love the cliffhanger at the end of the game too. I was waiting for what Black Ops 6 would do, but unfortunately it just kind of seems that we won't get an answer. Unless Warzone answered that. But of course, I guess what about zombies in the multiplayer? Zombies for Cold War was pretty fun. I played it a few times, and I've played the multiplayer a couple times. I like them both. I think the only annoying issue that surrounds this game is that, the installation storage for this one is fairly high, and that's kind of annoying. But overall, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is a pretty fun game. And of course, next up, we of course have Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which released in 2012. And of course, this one's going to be interesting. So Call of Duty Black Ops 2 came out in 2012 and was the third entry in the series, and of course, the fourth chronologically. And of course, so this is going to be a bit of an interesting part for the video, because as people would know who have played these games, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 has two different plot lines. One in the past, in the 1980s, and one in the future. Now, of course, I'm going to be covering the one in the past first, because, I want to review this chronologically and kind of give everyone the full idea about what the Black Ops saga is so far. So, of course, the game takes place after Black Ops 1 and, of course, Cold War. And what we do know now is, of course, kind of a bit of canon stuff. This game also had multiple endings, some of which I don't even know. So, of course, bear with me. So, of course, the past part of Call of Duty Black Ops 2 kind of really has you saving Woods, finding out who Menendez is, learning about Menendez's past and why he hates America so much, and of course, accidentally killing Mason. Because somehow Mason got captured and he ends up being killed by Woods. Woods is of course, injured very horribly by Menendez at some point in the game, and that is pretty much the end of the past part of Black Ops 2. Now, of course, there's the future part, which you actually do step in the shoes of Alex's son, David. And of course, that does bring us to Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which takes place after Black Ops 2. I know, very confusing names and kind of timeline so far. But of course, there are videos on YouTube that will explain everything about this, which is definitely very helpful. Well, this is the most recent Call of Duty, as it came out last year, and, what are my thoughts on it? Again. Now, of course, I've had a bit of a history in regards to Black Ops 6, and hence that's one of the reasons why I wanted to re-review this one. So, of course, Black Ops 6 takes place in 1990. So, at this point, the Cold War is pretty much over. I mean, both the US and the USSR have kind of, they've kind of been experiencing tough economies because all the money is being spent for an arms race, a space race, or just basically spreading capitalism or communism through proxy wars. Such proxy wars, of course, included, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, along with Laos and Cambodia, various wars in South America and Africa. Basically, there's a bunch of nasty business that both sides kind of did. And instead, of course, in this new age, the question remains, what could COD talk about now? Well, they talked about the first Gulf War, which happened in the early 90s. So, of course, Black Ops 6 is a very interesting title because this is not a game I understood when I played it. When I first played Black Ops 6, I was kind of expecting something kind of just completely action movie like the Modern Warfare series. But as I played Black Ops 6 again, I kind of realized that I kind of was playing this game wrong. It's not supposed to be some huge Hollywood blockbuster like how the Modern Warfare games were, but more so, kind of, but more so focusing on espionage and stuff like that. And of course, Black Ops 6 does a pretty interesting job on it. The game pretty much focuses on a new group called the Pantheon. They of course infiltrated the CIA, and it's up to the main character and of course their buddies to kind of prevent bad stuff from happening. That's pretty much it. Then of course you have the game's antagonist, and I thought she was pretty alright. She's not my favorite antagonist, but all this psychological stuff that Black Ops 6 really focused on, I actually kind of like. Black Ops 6 has been described as being like the Bioshock games. I can't really confirm that because I've never really played those, but if that's true, what people are saying, that kind of makes Black Ops 6 a really interesting game, and it's already a bit of an interesting one because the game does do a few things differently. Obviously, you do have that open world mission, which did feel like the open combat missions from Modern Warfare 3, which I actually kind of do like a lot better, to be honest. You, of course, do have some more unique things in Black Ops as well. You can collect money to upgrade your safe house. You, of course, have this part where you literally are fighting zombies in a campaign in a kind of a horror-esque mission. And then you have all this psychological stuff where you gotta repair this mirror and just, fight other versions of yourself. That's just completely crazy. But it really shows how interesting the writing was for Black Ops 6. It also just shows how completely misunderstood this game was for me. I'm glad that I played it again, because it's generally a pretty fun game in my opinion. Is it the best Call of Duty? Not really. There's been better Call of Duties that have been released, but it was one that I did enjoy playing, and I'm also looking forward to what they do next with Black Ops 7, which of course we'll see in a few months at this point. And of course, I guess, how's Zombies and the multiplayer? Zombies is pretty fun, a lot better than Modern Warfare 3. Modern Warfare 3, in my opinion, I think has the worst zombies, at least from what I've experienced. Zombies in Black Ops 6 is pretty fun. I really do enjoy this one. I still do think Cold Wars is my favorite, but Black Ops 6 was pretty fun. As for multiplayer, again, multiplayer just kind of generally feels the exact same thing year after year, at least for me. I know there's going to be some people who generally put more time into multiplayer and who do love it more. But with me, I never really did mind a multiplayer. But Black Ops 6, it was pretty right. There was a few rounds I did where people had to Todd skin or Coach Buzzcut skin from Beavis Butthead, and that kind of did make it pretty cool to experience. Gave me some chuckles, and so I guess overall, I think Black Ops 6 was pretty fun. And of course, next up, we of course are going. Well, we're of course moving into in the 2000s. That is of course finishing up Call of Duty Black Ops 2. So of course, going back into the past, well, going forward into the future, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 wraps up in 2025. You are now of course playing as a new character, David Mason, the son of Alex. He's pretty much kind of on the hunt for Menendez, because Menendez, he survived, and he's basically trying to ruin all these superpowers, and it's kind of up to you to stop him. Now, of course, the game has multiple endings and multiple choices. For instance, Harper can live or die. Really depends on your choices. Karma can live or die. Again, really does depend. Menendez can live or die. So there's a bunch of endings that get determined by what you do. I know some endings that can happen is that Menendez kills Woods. Menendez lives or he dies. Menendez somehow survives and I think burns himself alive or something. Or Menendez is in a jail cell watching Jimmy Kimmel interview Karma. And then there's the Avenged Sevenfold ending, which is honestly really hilarious. Not in a bad way, it's actually generally really fun. So, Black Ops 2, how was this one? I think I like it. The story was pretty good. There's these optional missions, which it's more of a tactical kind of shooter with these ones, and they're kind of alright. They're a bit boring, to be honest, but they do affect the ending, so they are definitely worth doing. As for multiplayer and zombies, I'm just gonna be honest, I kinda hate zombies for this one. Now keep in mind I'm only reviewing basic zombies, unless specifically stated otherwise. I personally think that Black Ops 2 zombies, at least what came on the disc, is a bit of a letdown compared to stuff that was on, World at War and Black Ops. Multiplayer, again, it's alright. It's not my favorite, but yeah, I see why people do enjoy it. And of course, next up, we're of course skipping into the future with of course Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Yeah, we're not even covering Black Ops 3 yet. So Black Ops 4 came out in 2018 and was, this was interesting. So Black Ops 4, I mean, in the nicest way possible, it came out. In the meanest way possible, this was a dud. So, okay, I guess, what are issues with Call of Duty Black Ops 4? Well, okay, let's take a look at what the game is. The game has 3 modes. It has Blackout, Zombies, and Multiplayer. Blackout is essentially a dead game mode. The fact that I even found a match in this one is kind of surprising. Even one of my girlfriends was surprised I even found a match. It's basically the Battle Royale mode for this one, because in 2017, 2018, games like Fortnite and PUBG were starting to get really popular and were, catching the attention of a lot of people worldwide. And, I've played stuff like Fortnite. It's fun. Extremely fun. I actually knocked out the Superhero Pass and got myself the Hatsune Miku Pass. And of course, so Activision, they of course saw that, and they want a slice of that pie, so they want to make a Battle Royale game. Which, sure, that's not a bad idea. I mean, look at Warzone. Warzone has done pretty well since it came out. But of course, I think the issue with Black Ops 4 is just the fact that even back in its prime, Blackout wasn't exactly the best mode. And of course, well, Blackout, it kind of, failed. At least kind of I guess, a nice way. I mean, Blackout itself it's a bit of a boring mode. There's really not much to really do in that one. Compared to the multiplayer, it's definitely a huge step down, and honestly, really should have just been a download or a add-on for that one. Sort of like how Warzone was. Black Ops 4 also should have had a campaign. Now, there's a lot of speculation whether or not Black Ops 4 did have a campaign. I've heard that it was supposed to have one, but it got cut out. But I've also heard that it wasn't ever planned to have a campaign. So, I honestly don't know. But what I do know is that I'm kind of glad they got this game. It was heavily on sale. Because it's really not worth the $60 that Sony is still charging for it. So, of course, I guess multiplayer. Is multiplayer okay? I mean, yeah, sure, 1/3 of the game might suck, but as long as the other two parts are good, I think that could be a good thing. Multiplayer was actually pretty fun. I wasn't expecting much from this one, but I had fun in the time I played the multiplayer, and I'm looking forward to trying out more of it. As for zombies, which is arguably going to be the part that most people play, I kind of think zombies did pretty well. This was a first time I played Black Ops 4 Zombies, and I honestly really did enjoy this one. I think it's my favorite part of Black Ops 4, which isn't really saying much because it's either Blackout or multiplayer. But I think Zombies was actually pretty fun. I had a lot of fun when I played this mode, and I do look forward to trying out more of this. Overall, Black Ops 4, it had potential, but unfortunately Activision kind of squandered that. And these days, it's not really worth picking up because there's no story. And, I mean, frankly, honestly, if you want a zombies experience, I would just probably pick up Cold War, or I would pick up Black Ops. Black Ops 4 Zombies is not bad, but at the same time, if you're only interested in zombies, I probably would I would literally just be careful on how you find this game, and just so you don't overpay for this one, because honestly, paying $60 for a game a dead mode in multiplayer was fun. It's definitely not my favorite. I really have this game for zombies, so it's basically paying $20 when this game only goes on sale for zombies isn't exactly the coolest thing to do. And of course, I will be wrapping up this review with, of course, Call of Duty Black Ops 3. So, Black Ops 3 came out in 2015, and, this one was pretty interesting. So, of course, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 this was fun. The game is set in the future, like Black Ops 2, and of course, the guns in this game are definitely quite different from earlier CODs. This one leaped pretty far into the sci-fi stuff, and it also could be a bit of a controversial entry. Love it or hate it, this one came out, and overall, I like this one. Let's take a look at the campaign. So, this one was really interesting because you're playing as, well, the player. I guess in this case we'll call him Inlay because that's normally probably what I named my characters. And of course you're playing as, well, I guess it was playing as a player. And, he or she, this was of course before they added the other pronoun options, like in Cold War. But depending on, uh, depending on the, well, okay, I'm losing my train of thought, but yeah, so the whole game, you pretty much kind of, you find the 54 models, but then you find out that your captain, uh, Taylor, he kind of betrayed you, and you're trying to track him down only for you to have to fight your other buddy, Hendrix. And this has a really good twist. And the cool thing about this is that your character, they've been dead. They didn't die halfway through the game. No, they actually died in the beginning. This is part where your character is brutally attacked by a robot, and it's a really horrific scene, especially for Call of Duty. But your character ends up dying in this part, and so, and okay, this is gonna be really complicated, but there's this thing called the DNA in the game, and there's a single consciousness that really affects it. So I guess if someone dies, it would take the DNA and would put them in this place. And instead is, if I recall it correctly, instead of doing that, I think your consciousness is in Taylor's. So like literally you're experiencing stuff through his eyes. How this makes sense, I honestly don't know. Like, believe me, this still confuses me. But you essentially were living life through Taylor's eyes until like the end of the game when it gets revealed. And this really makes Black Ops 3 the most mind-blowing Call of Duty in my opinion. Now, of course, how was the story? Aside from it being really confusing, the story is also pretty good, and the game itself is also pretty challenging. Even on easier difficulties, it can be challenging, which I definitely do respect. And the twist is just phenomenal. Even after playing it, it's still up there with one of the best twists I've experienced. Then, of course, there's the combat system. They changed a lot from older Call of Duties. You, of course, have like all these other special abilities that you can do in Black Ops 3, and it generally did make it a really interesting COD to play. Then, of course, there's the multiplayer, which I kind of found it a little uninteresting. I think it's probably the weakest out of them all, which is kind of sad. But then you have zombies, which is a huge step up from that. I played zombies solo, and I played zombies with my with one of my current girlfriends and our ex, and overall, I think overall, Black Ops 3 had a really interesting multiplayer. I mean, no, zombies. My bad. It had an okay multiplayer too, but it had a really good story. I think the best part about Black Ops 3 is, of course, the story. Now, of course, there's some things I don't like about this game, such as the fact that, well, I couldn't play this one for the longest time because I needed internet just to install this one, which the box didn't say. Then, of course, on the 360 and PS3 version, it's literally just multiplayer and zombies, no campaign, so why release it? I don't know. Not to mention, also, it's still charging, like, full price around the PlayStation, which is, like, why? The PS3, we're going to clarify that. So on the PS3, and they're still charging full price, which just baffles me. So, of course, that is the Black Ops Saga. And so the question is it good? Is there a reason why it's gone as long? Is it bad? everyone just avoid it? I guess it really depends. I mean, if you grew up with the older Call of Duties, chances are you probably stopped playing after Black Ops 2. If you're like me and you entered in the Ghosts through Infinite Warfare stages of COD, you might like this. You might like, you know, the later entries. Or you could be a newcomer to the series, like you entered after Modern Warfare or Cold War. Black Ops 6 might have been your first COD game. Or you are new to the series and you're thinking about Black Ops 7, but you want to find out if the other games are good or not. Completely valid. I mean, no matter where you start with Call of Duty, it's completely valid. And overall, I think this series is pretty interesting. There's a lot I really did like about these games. I had fun playing all of them, even if some modes were generally a bit boring. But I really did like experiencing the Black Ops series, and I'm also excited to see what Black Ops 7 does in the future. Obviously, we'll be waiting to see for that one, but overall, I do think that the Black Ops series was pretty fun. I think it really showed a lot of creative storytelling by Treyarch's part, and of course the development of zombies from a simple side mode to a huge gameplay mechanic and a reason why people even buy these games is also really impressive. Not to mention, Treyarch also kind of felt like they perfected the multiplayer too. And while these games are flawed, I do think that they are worth giving a try, and I do recommend them. I personally would just say, get the entire series on Xbox. Because, well, you can play them all on one system. Although, if you are on PlayStation 3, just be careful with Black Ops 2. Because, well, that one has issues when it comes to working. Now, they can work, it's just, you kind of gotta not be signed in online, which kind of can screw you over whether or not you want to play multiplayer or not. But of course, if you do have the option to really choose how you play these games on, definitely get them on Xbox. I think that's probably the best course of action, especially since these games could potentially be added to Game Pass, at least here's hoping. But that's really all I have to say about Call of Duty Black Ops. I'm kind of surprised that this video almost lasted for 40 plus minutes. But it really just shows that there was a lot to really say about the Black Ops saga. And I'll have a lot more to say about it once Black Ops 7 comes out. And I'm kind of glad to see that my opinion has changed on Black Ops 6 and of course Black Ops 2. These were pretty fun. And again, these games really creative. Treyarch really did know how to make an interesting game and really make them fun to play through. But of course, that's all I really have to say about this one. So of course, thank you all for watching and have a wonderful night.